The other students were not in danger. So that's what they're telling us now. I don't know if we have Sheila Gray back at the scene, but Sheila, are you there?
Yes, I am, Rob, and I wanted to let you know that they are starting to let people go home. We just saw 2 sets of parents with their teenage sons coming out of the school. They didn't want to talk to us. They just went on by.
Did they give you any kind of, did they talk to you off camera? No,
they
just don't want to talk.
They wouldn't say anything. They didn't say anything.
Which is completely understandable in the light of the situation, because number one, it's so new. It just happened. As parents and as students, I guess you haven't been given enough time to digest what has happened just yet.
Right, and you know, you mentioned what the scene was like when we pulled up here. We were the first news crew to arrive here on the scene, and there were some parents gathered right across the street. I think they were afraid to try to go over to the school because they didn't know what was happening, and there was one gentleman whose wife was texting with his son, and I could hear him talking with his wife who was getting the texts, and they knew their son was okay, but they didn't know what was happening. It was the same type of thing that you've been hearing, where the son was in school and he knew that they were locked down, and he knew that the police were on the scene, but he did not know what had happened. And one of the moms who was visibly very upset actually started yelling at us, thinking that we were insensitive being here. And I just very calmly talked to her and said, you know, I'm a mom too, and I'm so sorry that you're going through this, and you know, we're just trying to find out what happened, just like you are. And I mean, she, you know, I think she took that to heart, and she visibly changed her demeanor. But you know, that's how scary that is. I mean, when you just do anything to protect your kids. And so, but yeah, we've seen a couple of others leaving, and they clearly don't want to talk. I don't know if they've been told by the school to not talk. That could be the case, you know, since we don't know how this young man is doing. Sure, and as you mentioned, we saw a father walking out of the school there with his hand on his son's shoulder. I mean, that just says it all in terms of the parents' relief that they might be feeling now, knowing that their kid's okay. But until you know that, I mean, you need to see it with your own eyes, don't you think? Oh, I think so. I think so. And you know, I remember when my daughter was in high school, and there was a tragic situation, and one of the students got killed in a car accident. And I think it's really important for the kids to be together and to be able to talk about it together. And I know that the school leaders here at Lasalle are going to handle it like that. Sure. You know, they made counselors available to them. They made their parents available to them if they needed it. And they're letting them go home if they want to, but by no means is there any big exodus from the school. So I don't know if I have no way of knowing if that means that some kids want to stay here. If the parents want them to stay, you know, they may just be waiting for the media to clear out. I don't really know. Yeah, and we're still seeing parents filing into school at this hour. Yes. You know, as a parent, I'm sure you always told your kids, you know, stop texting, get off your phone. It seems like texting this time kept a lot of parents connected with their kids. Well, and you know, the funny thing about it, and not that it's funny, but they're not supposed to have their phones in school, probably. They're not supposed to be texting in school. But yeah, as a parent, that would be very comforting to be able to just communicate with your son and know that he's all right. All right, as Sheila mentioned, a lot of people not wanting to talk to us. That's understandable. I mean, it just happened. But we did talk with a friend of a mother of a student at Lasalle High School.
Yeah, she found out. She was very hysterical. Didn't want her driving herself, so I brought her up, and I'm going to wait for her till she comes out.
And you know what? That's another indication of just how, really, Sheila, how close-knit a lot of the schools are on the west side of town, especially when you talk about the Catholic schools, and especially when you talk about LaSalle High School, because as you mentioned, it's not a very big school. Only about 800 students attend, correct? Yeah. Just a few less than 800, and Dan Wells was able to just catch a word with one of the parents over here who told us that they were told not to talk with the media when they left with their boys. And that's surprising because they've been so forthcoming up until this point. I guess they want to make sure bad information doesn't get out of there, right? Well, you know how that is. I mean, look, when we've been covering a lot of breaking news lately. Yeah. Just take the Boston Marathon bombings, for example. We know how easily reports that are not true come out. The Newtown school shootings,
there were suspects being named who had nothing to do with that crime. So yes, I mean, we're going to be very careful, and these people are going to be very careful. You know, we live in this community, and we're going to be careful just as they are. But I have Dan Wells is bringing someone over here to me. Hi, sir.
It's actually a parent, a Lasalle.
Hi, I'm Sheila. What's your name, sir?
Stephen Allen.
Stephen, you have a son here at Lasalle?
Yes, his name is Stephen as well.
Oh, it is? And what year is your son in school?
He's a junior.
So why did you come down this morning?
To come and get him, actually. I made contact with him early after the incident. I attempted to call him, but never able to get through his cell phone. But he texted me and told me he was okay.
Yeah. Did you hear about it through news reports and then try and get in touch with him?
Yes.
Yeah, you must have been very concerned.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. Is your son okay?
Yeah, he's okay. Yeah.
It must have been so traumatic for him.
I'm sure it was. I hadn't gotten able to talk to him, so I don't know how close he was to the situation. So.
How do you feel like Lasalle has handled this situation with your son and his students, his classmates, I should say?
Very good, as well as they could, I think. And I know myself, when I'm up here during the day, they constantly are locked down. So I think they handled it quite well.
Talk to me about this community, about the closeness of this school community here.
Well, yeah, I know the parents just involved in this athletics that my son is in and through the school itself. But I know they're very close, and I think they probably think a lot about this, and they care about a lot of what's going on.
How will you try to help your son?
Well, I don't know how close he was to the person who was involved, but just let him know that, you know, it's things like this happen all the time, and they'll do what they can to make it safe for him to come to school.
Stephen, thank you so much. I'm so glad your son is okay. It was nice of you to talk with us today. Thanks a lot. Rob, back to you.
Yeah, you know what, and I know you're getting emotional too, and that father was getting emotional too. I mean, anybody connected to this story is emotional because the story is really just so raw yet, Sheila, don't you think?
I think so, and you know, there are a couple of things that go on when you find out that the person in your life is okay.
Right.
You're relieved. You're so relieved, but then at the same time, you feel a sense of guilt because someone else does not have that relief.
Sure.
And someone else is going through a horrible, horrible situation today, a life-changing situation. So there's so many mixed emotions that go on.
All right, if you have to leave your TV, remember we're going to have updates at fox19.com. Sheila, we have some more sound with some parents we interviewed with earlier this morning. Here's what they had to say.
Well, like I said, I heard from him immediately, so it was relief for me. But you don't know who's in there, if it's an adult going to shoot, you know, if they're going to break in his room. I mean, you just think of all the other school shootings that have happened and what's going to happen. But it sounds like it got, you know, they were on it right away. And it's sad to hear about this other student, though, so I don't know.
Yeah, that is us talking with the mother. LaSalle High School was put on lockdown earlier after a student shot himself. He was taken to UC Medical Center. We don't know how he's doing right now. We continue to follow that. No word yet, Sheila, on the identity of this young student, correct? At all.
That's correct, and in fact, I talked with a student from LaSalle who just happened to sleep too late today, and he said that he hadn't received any word about who it was. You know, we know the police know who it was. They knew right off the bat at the beginning of the day who the victim was, and in fact, one of the officers told me, you know, that's why they knew that they weren't concerned about the safety of the other kids, because they knew who the victim was, and he had been transported by ambulance to UC Medical Center. But as you can see, a lot of people looking very shaken up here as they leave LaSalle High School. Many parents have shown up to be with their sons, and they were told by the school if they want to leave and go home for the day, they can. You know, for parents, I'm sure they're not sure how to help their kids deal with something like this. But I just saw a dad with his arm just hugging his son like this. So it's, you know, it's traumatic for these parents. Sure. and for the kids who had to be part of this today, especially the uncertainty of not knowing what was going on this morning.
And you said it best earlier. You've been through all the gamuts of emotion, as a lot of people have been through this morning, because you're right. At first you feel fear, and once you know your kid is okay, I'm sure a lot of parents feel guilt.
Yeah, and relief that their child is okay,
Sure.
but I'm sure they feel so much for these other parents who are having to go to UC Medical Center today because their son, tried to take his own life, and we don't know why. We just know that he got into school with a gun. Dan Wells has been standing here by my side and trying to talk to some of these parents who are coming out, and for the most part, they don't want to speak to us. And I think some of the young men who go to school here, were they told to maybe not talk to the media, Dan?
Well, and that's what we're getting. I think all the media out here are trying to be very respectful of the parents. Obviously, we're trying to find out the latest information of what happened inside, and we are finding pretty much everyone out here that they are being very tight-lipped about the situation. You talked about the sense of family here at Lasalle, and apparently a lot of the people, parents and kids involved, are demonstrating that by keeping quiet. We're not sure. I did hear that they were told to keep quiet and maybe keep everything under wraps.
Yeah, but then that one father did speak to me, so...
You're going to find that. But I think as a whole, we're finding that a lot of the media out here has been blocked by talking to parents and students. Good, bad, or indifferent, I think that the information hopefully will come out. So we're going to keep trying, of course.
Yeah, and there will be some folks who do talk to us, but we're certainly not going to push anybody to do anything they don't want to do. And I haven't seen any of the other reporters out here be too aggressive about it.
No, I mean, it's a tough time. It's certainly a challenging situation, and we always try to err on the side of respect for those parents and those students. And they are just being very adamant, saying that they do not want to talk to the media right now, especially about what happened today.
It's understandable. They probably need some time to process it, Rob.
And the other thing is, let's talk about that. We have to do our jobs and get the information out and make sure that information is correct. A lot of parents would not have found out about the situation unless the news stations were on, and definitely would not have found out that it was no longer an active situation. But you got to kind of balance that with balancing compassion, don't you think, Sheila?
Oh, I think so, because I think, like Dan mentioned earlier, there was nothing on the website. They weren't answering the phone here. Kids were texting their parents, but they didn't know what was going on. So they didn't know the situation in the school at that time. So it was very important for the police and for LaSalle officials to get the word out that it was safe in the school.
Absolutely, and that is what we've heard from parents coming into the school when we grabbed them, obviously going to see their loved ones and their sons inside, that they found out exactly what was happening through media reports. And now, after coming out of the cafeteria where everybody has gathered, it seems like they've kind of taken a step back and just want to remain quiet now at this point.
And unfortunately, because our country has had to deal with situations like this so many times, and we see this video so many times of parents rushing to the school, I think that that's just part of the planning process for school administrators, that they know that parents are going to show up, and they've got to make some kind of a contingency to make sure that everyone's okay, and that they don't become part of the scene, but that they're able to get information.
And I can only imagine that part of that discussion in there is security. We talked about it, and having a student bring in a loaded gun to a school like LaSalle is problematic, and I'm sure that's part of the discussion, part of the conversation, and maybe that's another reason that parents just want to let this process itself out before commenting on it further. Again, we wish them the respect that they deserve, and we're going to abide by that. Right. As far as we're here this morning.
Greg Tankersley from LaSalle told us early on that they would have counselors here at the school, and it is a Catholic school. It's a faith-based school, so I'm sure that they'll be having church leaders and religious